This is not my book. The author will be in the description. I hope you enjoy. Text. If you wanna be a hero that badly, there's a quick way to do it. Believe that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life and take a last chance dive off the roof. Bakugo Katsuki, mockingly sneered, leaving the pathetic shivering mess that was his quirkless classmate in the classroom by himself. Midoriya Izuku's beloved notebook long thrown out the window, soaked in a fountain down below. There was nothing he could bring himself to say. Only quivering until he was left behind where he regained his bearings. Dart. Dive off the roof. Idiot. If I really jumped, that would mean you instigated a suicide. Think before you speak. Midoriya had made his way down to outside their junior high school, searching for his notebook, filled with nothing but elaborate and impressive notes and analyses of the greatest heroes. It was all he could do. What he lacked in power and natural talent that Bakugo had been blessed with, he could at least make up in devotion and studying. He only stared at his hard work soaking in the fish pond, becoming more ruined from the water and burns the blonde student had caused. His work, his passion, was confined to a simple book. His purpose, in a notebook. His self-worth, in a notebook. And here it was, drowning, torn, burned, treated so worthlessly by his classmates. That's not fish food, stupid. He snatched it back from 3koi, beginning to nibble on it. That's my notebook, stupid. Stupid. Thief. Someone. Catch me if you can. Downtown in the same very city, a disgusting, slimy villain fled down the city with stolen cash, leaving a trail behind. An eager grin spread wide across his green face, feeling like no hero would bother to go after him after the villain's suppression with Mount Lady and the cleanup afterward. Huh? There's no hero around? Normally someone would come right away. This guy's taking advantage of the chaos from this morning. There are a ton of people around who don't know what to do with their quirks. There's no end to them. Passerbys only watched as the villain made his getaway. They did nothing, just watch. No heroes in the making. No courage to be seen. Not even someone checking on the victims of the robbery. They just simply waited for a hero to come. The heroes fix everything. And thus, only the greatest of them all appeared behind the small cluster of citizens on the sidewalk. Buff, tall, strong, smiling brightly, entering the conversation with hearty words. There is an end. Why? He stepped forward, stepping up to the challenge. His powerful voice carried to the non-existent ears of the villain of slime, causing a small twinge of panic. Because I am here. All Might said calmly with all his glowing pride as the symbol of peace. The small freckled boy, deep in his thoughts of his past, was dragging his feet home. Quirkless? It doesn't matter. UA takes kids without quirks now. He has a chance. The nice man with the weird head even believed in him. He wasn't strong, but he was smart. He had the passion, right? He could still be a hero. He could be just like his idol. He could be just like All Might. Midoriya decided back then, didn't he? Back then, in the arms of his crying mother. It doesn't matter what Bakugo and his followers said. That's right. Don't worry about what other people think. Midoriya clenched his fist to his chest and looked up at the sunny blue sky, watching the cherry blossoms drift by so peacefully. There was hope for him, surely. Hold your head up high and plunge forward. His dragging pace had turned into a childish stomping march as he held his fist up above his head, mimicking All Might's trademark hardy laugh. He began passing under a bridge tunnel, going towards the light of the other side. And yet, in his naive burst of hope, he could not ignore the looming sound behind him, growing louder. He stopped his laughter and turned around to see a massive accumulation of slime appearing before him. Twice, no, 3 or 4 times his size. All that bravado was gone in a single instant when faced with such a frightening sight. A villain. He cried out loud. A medium-sized invisibility cloak, a deep, scraggly voice muttered, rising from the ground. He quickly made eye contact with this shivering child standing in his path. Before more than a scream could leave Midoriya's lips, he tried to turn and run away only to be engulfed from behind, brought to the ground in an instant. His notebook was dropped and sent to the side. Any attempt at a cry for help was muffled by the awful slime being forced down his throat, unable to fight it as his body was restrained by even more slime. Face to face with this villain, he was only reminded by how powerless he was. Don't worry. I'm just going to take over your body. Calm down. It'll only hurt for about 45 seconds. You'll feel better soon. The villain almost tried to soothe the freckled child as he got closer and closer to suffocating him. Midoriya began to tear up, crying again as he had done so often. It was all he could do. He desperately tried to grab at the villain to pry him away, but to no avail. You can't grab me. I'm fluid. The slime mocked and even held the boy a bit closer, shutting his own eyes. Thanks for your help. You're my hero. He then opened them again to gaze at the crying child he had lifted off his feet, choke and struggle in his grasp. He could feel his struggling growing weaker. His movements were slowing down. Dying? Was he dying? Midoriya's gaze, blurred with tears and the lack of oxygen, could only be traced to his open notebook. The page he had started with his dream costume was open. What he wanted to be, his future, it was right there in front of him. Was he going to die before he could even try to achieve what he's always wanted? He just wanted somebody to save him before he could have his future. His consciousness was fading. Was he going to be abandoned by his own fate? It was then he blacked out. Alas, he was not dead. Midoriya's eyes twitched, feeling nothing around him suddenly. He could breathe fully. He could move. His big green eyes only opened halfway, finding himself in midair and seeing a silhouette of the one that inspired him the most. It was a dream, wasn't it? The number one hero in front of him, grocery bag in hand and yet posed in a punching motion with remains of slime floating around him. He couldn't bring himself to even say the full name, missing just the last sound before he fell unconscious just one more time. But this time Midoriya felt a succession of light slapping against his freckled cheek. Hey! He heard a deep voice calling out to him when he blinked a few times, adjusting to the bright light. He made it outside the tunnel. By himself. No, that's not right. Oh, good. The deep voice said again, the owner holding his fingers up to his brow in relief, standing over him. All Might himself. In the flesh. Right in front of him. His first reaction was to only scream and scoot back a few feet out of sheer panic. I'm glad you're okay. His hero said, standing up tall with a hand on his hip. Sorry about getting you caught up in my villain fighting. I don't usually make mistakes like this, but I was in high spirits on my day off in a new place. But you were a big help. Thanks. He let out another one of his trademark laughs with his signature smile on his face. He was nothing short of simply being bright. A bright shining light of hope, his hero, his idol right in front of him. All Might then held up a bottle filled to the brim with green slime. I captured him safely. His smile shined so brightly to the boy that was infatuated with all his work. Oh, right. An autograph. Where should I? Midoriya began to frantically feel at his school uniform, desperately searching for the notebook he remembered holding before being attacked. He quickly found it on the ground and reached for it. In that notebook, he flipped to a pair that used to be blank pages, now filled with a giant signature. He already did. He nearly screeched, standing up and then rapidly bowing over and over, kind of scaring the number one hero. Thank you very much. It'll be an heirloom. A family treasure. The child said with all the gratefulness in his heart. Midoriya received a thumbs up with a small sparkle and a solid okay. By the hero. Well, I need to take this guy to the police. See you again on the other side of the screen. All Might strapped the trapped villain to his leg as tightly as he could before giving the young Midoriya a small wave and preparing to leap off. But, there was something Midoriya needed to know. Something he had to ask. Wait, already? Midoriya questioned softly, disappointed almost. Pros are constantly fighting enemies and time, his hero answered, stretching and flexing, needing to prepare for a massive takeoff. But he couldn't leave yet. There were so many questions. There was something. Well then, I'm counting on your continued support. The pro hero leapt off with expected grace and extreme power. But he quickly noticed something was very wrong. Very, very wrong. Wait. He looked back at his leg to see the malformed face of Midoriya Izuku clinging to him desperately, unwilling to let him go without an answer to a question he's always wanted to ask his idol. Hey, 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 hey. Let go of me. Your fanaticism is too much. He began trying to shove off the pathetic child with one hand in midair. If I let go now, I'll die. He cried, trying to speak through the winds that made the blowing skin on his face look goofily terrifying. And he did have a point. That's true. The hero suddenly realized and stopped shoving him. I have a lot of things I want to ask you directly. Okay. I get it, so close your eyes and mouth. Midoriya obliged to All Might's suggestion and even put his face down against his leg to brace himself. Perhaps feeling a little sympathetic, the hero held onto the back collar of his school uniform to keep him secure. It was then he turned his head and coughed quietly into his fist, a drop of blood escaping through his smiling teeth. He was running out of time. His facade was almost up. He made a quick landing on a skyscraper so he at least wouldn't be seen when his time was up. That was scary, Midoriya whimpered, his body quivering once again from the aftershock of such speed and power. Good grief. If you talk to the people downstairs, I'm sure they'll let you down. I seriously am out of time, so I really must go. He had to go. He had to leave now. He couldn't let a kid see who he really was. It was still a secret. He wasn't ready to stop being a hero yet. There was so much he still had to do. Wait. Midoriya tried to get him to spare just a few moments. No, I will not wait. But. No, he couldn't leave yet. He wouldn't give up. It didn't matter what his mother said. It didn't matter what that doctor said. It didn't matter what Bakugo said. It only matters. Can someone without a quirk be like you? The question made All Might stop in his tracks, smile still strong on his face as he looked back at the boy. The student was blushing, standing tall but timidly, eyes closed, but with a tone so hopeful. So hopeful. Without a quirk? The pro muttered before a spark of pain shot through his whole body and steam erupted from his skin. He hunched over, mumbling a slew of profanities. Midoriya could only look down, oblivious to what was happening in front of him. He spoke softly and rubbed his thumb nervously, sounding ready to tear up at any moment. It might have been because I don't have a quirk, but I'm always made fun of. Maybe that's why. I don't know, but I think saving people is super cool. Saving people with a fearless smile. I want to be the greatest hero, like you. He looked up to his hero with an innocent smile only to see a cloud of steam dispersing to reveal a shriveled up skeleton of a man with similar features to the great hero that was just standing before him. Midoriya, once again, screamed in complete fear, shock, and disbelief. Why you're deflating. Wait, up until now, huh? Fake? A fake? You're so skinny. There was no way. There was no possible way that this was his hero. The strong, powerful, smiling man that was his hero could not possibly be this skinny man. I am All Might, the man grumbled only to have blood leak from his mouth, causing the child to only scream louder. It was truly a terrifying sight for him. No way. He couldn't believe this. This couldn't be his hero. It was then that the weak man took a seat on the ground. He began explaining so much about himself. Maybe not everything, but enough to make this boy understand the severity of the situation. The fight that was kept out of the public. But with who? The deflation of his body was just a means of flexing. But what was the source? His quirk was kept a secret from the public. But why? He did indeed have fear, as all heroes do. But why did he never tell anyone? Why did it suddenly feel like this hero was a lie? Were his dreams a lie too? No, maybe even someone as strong as he still had faith in quirkless people. Pros are always risking their lives. I cannot simply say you can become a hero even without power. There was a snap in the air. Realization. Crushing. Hopelessness. It hit Midoriya Izuku in a single moment. Doctors, his mother, his classmates, and now, his hero. No, not his hero. Not anymore. There was no hope for him to be a hero. There was nothing at all for him to hold on to. There was no future. What was he even thinking? It all seemed so pointless now. Pointless. Was there a point to anything he was doing? A point to anything he was learning? His notebook, all his notes, analyses, his passion, what was the point? The merch collection, the studying, the focus on heroes, the understanding of quirks, there was no point to it. There was no matter in anything he had been doing his entire life. There was no purpose. There was no point to his purpose. Dive off the roof. Out of politeness alone, Midoriya Izuku smiled shakily with a dull look in his eyes. No longer shining with innocence, no more laughter to be had. No more light to be seen in now Brunswick green irises. I see, it's all he said. It's all he could say. He didn't see. He saw nothing. There was nothing to see ahead or to look forward at. If you want to help others, then you could become a police officer. They are often teased because they get villains delivered to their doorstep, but that is also a fine occupation. It's not a bad dream. But you also have to consider what's realistic, young man. All Might parted with those as his final words, walking off the roof through a door to lower floors. He patted his leg and felt the villain in the soda bottle still attached to his leg. He still had to deliver him to the police too. How incredible that he never dropped it during that whole ordeal. Dive off the roof. Midoriya stood silently on the top of that building for quite a long time. Not this roof. Not now. He held his notebook close as he waited until he was certain that that imposter of a hero was gone. He made his way down as discreetly as he could be. He was eventually caught by a security guard and led to the main exit where he was lectured about being on the roof and how dangerous it was. He stood there, an empty stare was all that prevalent on his freckled face as this nobody went on and on. He did not defend himself. He didn't even mention anything to do with All Might. Yes, sir. Never again, sir. It was an accident, sir. Empty words were all he had left. Shouldn't you be in school? Or shouldn't you be at home with your parents? You kids are getting so rebellious these days. The security guard grumbled before walking away back into the building. Midoriya's feet dragged so slowly down the streets, All Might's words echoing in his head. There was no hidden meaning to be found. He meant every word that he said. There was no heroism in his future. So what was left for his future? Saving people? People expected nothing of him now. The most normal people expected nothing and the greatest people expected nothing. What should he expect now? As he walked and walked, he wasn't finding his way home. He found himself trudging back to school. The skies began to get cloudy despite it being a clear day almost all day. Maybe in a place not so far away, a hero so strong was able to change the weather. The gloomy clouds were so low, bringing only darkness and then rain. How fitting for his mood. Dive off the roof. How did he get here? On the roof of his very own middle school, he looked over the edge that was several stories up. Plenty high enough. He never noticed where he had walked. Perhaps he didn't even care enough. He didn't have much to care about honestly. In my next life, he mumbled. Hope for a quirk in his next life. That's all he could do now, wasn't it? I wish, for the strongest quirk of them all. He was so ready. The emptiness he felt was reflected in his darkened eyes. It was all he felt. It only took a little lean forward and one little step. There must have been at least a single tear on his cheek, but it was hard to tell from the rain. There was no somebody this time. There was no hero, no All Might to come save the day. He was going to fall. The wind rushed past his fluffy hair when a sudden two arms hugged on tightly to his waist from behind and caught him before he could even drop an inch. Shouto! Get back, don't you dare! A loud, booming voice erupted from inside a luxurious mansion on that gloomy, rainy evening. Todoroki Shouto quickly snatched a hoodie and slid on shoes without tying the laces before racing out the front door just as he was being yelled at. Just get away. It's all he wanted. He slammed the front door shut and before his father could open it, he froze it shut and then left many layers of ice on his side to keep number 2 hero Endeavor from melting it right away. He didn't have goal location in mind. He just needed to get out and as far away as he could. An argument got out of control, sparring that had gone too far, training that had gotten too much. It all piled up that one afternoon and he needed to leave. blood staining the inside of his right sleeve. His skin blistered at his hands. With the hoodie zipped up to his neck and hood over his head, there were likely many more wounds hidden that he did not want attention for. Shoving past people on crowded sidewalks, he obeyed his body desire to just run and keep running. He was no coward. But enough was enough, and knowing his opponent was too strong for him, he didn't have a choice. He was not safe in that mansion, no matter how pampering it must seem. It seems everything in his life had gone so wrong. Where did his family go? Where was the nurturing mother he loved? Where was his sister at a time like this? Where was Natuzo? There was someone else too. Someone he couldn't remember clearly. There was another brother. Who was he? Where did he go? Horizontal ellipsis. What was his name? He would never know how long he ran that evening. But he found himself safely able to rest on a bench near a middle school he's never seen before. With his hood up, he leaned back and looked exhaustedly at the raining sky. Tired, he mumbled quietly. His eyes blinked slowly from exhaustion. Frost was lightly coating the bottom of his right cheek and a burn wound was revealed at the left side of his neck. His quirk was tired. His legs were tired. He was tired. He had half a mind to take a nap right where he sat today. All this, to be just like him, he muttered. To be like his father, absolutely not. To be like All Might. To be strong and skilled enough to save hundreds of people. That's all he wanted out of his god-forsaken quirk. There was no pride and no joy in being strong. He didn't need power to want to save people like his mother or anyone else in his family. He wanted to be strong with just his ice anyhow. Surely that was enough to surpass Endeavor and All Might. I fucking hate you, Todoroki whispered, holding his left hand up and palm open to the rain, blocking the rain from his face. Blood dripped down his hand and wrist with the cool water soothing all the burns that were hidden under that sleeve. I'll save more people than you ever did. I'll save more than you've hurt. He certainly was determined with a future to fight for. But it was then he noticed something as he sat up. He rubbed the scar on his left eye and noticed something on top of the school. Someone was up there, and even though it was a bit hard to see, he could recognize an empty gaze like that anywhere. Surely he's had it himself before too. Somebody was up there. Somebody needed help. And somebody needed to help. He slowly got up from his seat, giving himself a moment to be sure. It was someone his age, shorter. So it wasn't maintenance or a custodian, and it was past after school hours by now. They were so close to the edge, he knew he had to be fast. Using his ice, he neglected using any stairs and instead used his ice to shoot himself up the side of the building and land cleanly on the roof. Wait. He ran even though he was still so tired from all the running he had done before. Save you. Let me save you. He watched the boy before him lean forward and take a step off the roof. Let me be a hero. He couldn't reach the boy's hands. He wouldn't be able to get a good grip on his shoulders or ankles. The only thing he could think to do was wrap his arms around his waist and pull him back just a foot or two. I very much hope you enjoyed. I will be posting once a day for the summer, and in September I will have my own stories to post. When September hits, however, I will be going to school and will only post once a week or so. I very much hope you enjoy, and as the meme gods say, be gay and do crime. Storyteller signing off.